Yo, what up, everyone? Welcome in to a brand new episode of Snaps here on the Volume Sports YouTube channel. What's going on, guys? Hope you're having a wonderful day today. Let's get this out off the top, okay? Know we got a lot of dog fans in here. And unfortunately today, Aaron Murray not going to be on the show. I mean, I don't know what it is. You know, you win a national championship, and all of a sudden you don't got to show up for work anymore. Just absolutely feeling himself. No, I'm just kidding. But I will be. It'll be me and Brum today. That's right. Like all great shows, are going to make our producer pull double duty while only get paid for one job. We'll make him do another, as me and Brum will be providing you with the college football takes to satiate your college football hungry soul. Again, this is Snaps, the Volume Sports Podcast Network's college football daily podcast. It's super fun. We love doing it. FanDuel Sportsbook app. If you download it, promo code SNAPS, that helps us out. Rate and review the pod wherever you listen. Or if you want to be like our guy, Walker Dog, Andy J, everyone else. Yeah, that's right, Walker Dog, the wild man from Louisiana. Yeah, A-Barge, Dart Janus in the chat. Everybody, if you want to come hang out in the chat, youtube.com/the volume, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, every single day. Do we get to see the man behind the curtain? I don't think so. Brum, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the computer that you produce this also has no camera capabilities.
Can confirm. I did have a webcam set up, but then I ran out of USB ports, and here we are.
Well, check it out, dude. I've been listening to a lot of Andrew Tate videos lately, okay? And I've learned how the webcam business works. Do you want to go in on this with me?
I would rather stay away from all Tate-related topics.
What? You don't want to be a top G? Damn, dude. See, this is why Snaps is never going to make it. If we got into, if we moved away from college football and started running, you know, a allegedly trafficking webcam operation, I feel like we'd be making more money. But whatever, dude. You know, I'm not a businessman.
Alleged webcams and false masculinity. That there seems to be a lot of viewership. Or like How to Be a Man 101 or whatever the fuck Andrew Tate talks about.
A-Barge says that's code for, quote, a face radio. I will actually back Ryan Brumley up here. Brum has a voice that does not, I don't think, prepare you for what he actually looks like. And that's not to say that it's any like odd kind of voice. It's a normal voice, right? But it doesn't speak of like Brum, how tall are you? Are you like 6'4"? Like when we met in real life, you're like 6'4", like seemed like 200. Like you're a big dude.
I'm 6'2", probably 215 right now. Should be at about 205, yeah. You know. We're all
no way, bro. That's elite. That's elite prototypical quarterback size right there. A couple more inches and you could be Will Levis. Like you too could get drafted in the first round while not actually playing all that well. Walker Dog says, is Harbaugh leaving Michigan? Okay. This is something that we will get into today because the Jim Harbaugh news, it never quite has stopped since the loss, and it's only going to increase over the next couple of weeks. So give you some of the idea of the topics. You know, what is Jim Harbaugh going to do? NFL, will Michigan pay him, et cetera, et cetera. Is USC making a mistake in keeping Alex Grinch? Lincoln Riley heading it off to him. My boy, hey, look, my boy Grinch, I know him. He's not going anywhere next year, okay? Brum has to get something off his chest with Deion Sanders, I believe, and it's going to be a bit ironic to me, as we'll see. And then, I don't know, I kind of want to look at the final AP Top 25 a little bit here as it's a year that ended far differently than we ever would have thought. In fact, I was pretty shocked. I was reading The Athletic earlier, and Brum, I think it might be the first time in history, but 5 teams that started unranked ended up in the top 10 by the end of the year. That's a fun year of college football. So like, regardless of what any of the hot take artists are going to say, that national championship game was bad for college football, yada, yada, yada. We already kind of parsed through it yesterday, right? That is just a portion of college football, the playoffs of the championship. It is not why most of us on the whole love the sport so deeply. Like if you were listening to this, normally if you listen to a podcast on a subject, you are nerdy about that subject, right? And so if you were listening to this show, you're probably a college football nerd. So your enjoyment comes from more than just the playoff. And so like, Yeah, arguably for maybe getting in the people on the fence or some of the more tangential or other areas of geography of the country did the championship help? No. But if you're a nerd about this stuff, you know this was a deeply satisfying college football year. And of course, we have many Bulldog fans in here. So you're like, yeah, no shit. We won the national championship. Pff, congratulations, whatever. Brian Kelly's coming. Okay. Cowherd tried to tell you Brian Kelly is coming. And LSU's, well, they're looking pretty damn good. Okay. Okay. Tangent here, bro. Think about SEC Media Days next year when you are asked to vote on who will win each side of the conference. Does Alabama get the blank check mark that it normally does, or does Brian Kelly return an entire offense, a bunch of talented defensive transfers, and most importantly, the quarterback that beat Alabama last year to win the West? Do you think LSU gets votes, and do they maybe even win that vote next year?
I don't think they win that vote, but I think it would probably going to break down around 70% Bama, 30% LSU.
Okay, we'll take it. That's
I mean, they're probably
far cry from what it's been.
The most I would say it's very likely they will both be top 10 preseason AP poll teams. Almost assuredly.
Yeah. Well, I would say that's almost guaranteed. And I know this doesn't really factor in, but I don't think it hurts that you're going to have LSU, FSU week 1 again next year. And I mean, I don't think it hurts that like people are just kind of naturally want to juice up that game, right? Goose it a little bit. And you got two teams that end up finishing as 10-win teams. Mike Norvell looking like he finally has that brain going the right direction. How about this, Brum? Two teams that are the official Cheez-It champions of bowl season. Now, I hate that Florida State got to ally with Prince Chedward. Well, we got, is it Gin Cheese or Z-Ched? Zed-Chi? I can't remember what his name is. Whatever. We got the lamer of the two Cheez-It mascots, but both Florida State and LSU ending their season in Orlando with the Cheez-It mascots will be playing in that very same stadium to start next season. You gotta love it, dude. Andy J says, is Brumley Kevin from The Office? No. He is not large, like obesity wise, at all. All right, let's go ahead and dive. Yes, we love Prince Chedward, and here's to hoping that LSU can beat FSU and Prince Chedward can get back on. That Prince Chedward can ally himself with the Tigers. Okay, let's talk Jim Harbaugh, because he's all over the place right now. We already know that he kind of, and Brum, have you read this as well, that in the Carolina talks, it was Harbaugh that kind of aggressively pursued them? Like
it's
it wasn't even necessarily.
There's definitely a sliver of reporting that Harbaugh was pushing for the Panthers job and the Panthers are not interested. But he also seems to be on the radar for at least the Broncos and probably unofficially the Colts.
Well, the latest reporting on the Broncos, you could even maybe argue is more than on the radar. Though, again, during this time of year, it's kind of like smoke screen season for recruiting and everything. You never quite know what is a real story and what's just some power broker putting something out there as leverage. But he did do a 2-hour virtual interview with the Broncos. And all the headlines will tell you that he has emerged as a top candidate. And off the bat here, this is what I'll say. His resume, I don't know that you are going to find a head coaching candidate out there. No, you're not. You're not going to find a head coaching candidate out there with a more tempting resume than Jim Harbaugh. It's borderline absurd what he was able to do in his time in the NFL. In Harbaugh, you have a guy that took over a San Francisco 49er team that had 8 consecutive losing seasons. Think about that. Literally the most successful NFL franchise in the league's history had 8 losing seasons in a row. Harbaugh shows up. They immediately go to the NFC Championship, go to the Super Bowl next year, NFC Championship the year after that. He has a record of 44-19-1. We're talking about winning nearly 70% of the games that he coached on the NFL level. I mean, I don't know about you, bro. I'm like, if you're an NFL team, how are you not attracted to that? Like what is the reticence? And maybe there isn't any, but like with that record right there, why has no one made the golden handcuff offer to Jim Harbaugh yet when it comes to the league?
Because he's weird. Like
Yeah,
the simple answer is because he's a weird, quirky guy, and he rubs people the wrong way sometimes, and I think he has a great job. The Michigan job is probably you could argue one of the 5 to 7 best jobs in college football. He makes a lot of money, and he had a lot of success in his 4 years in San Francisco, but famously had tensions with the general manager, other coaches.
Yeah. I know a lot of the players.
He doesn't come with emotion, history baggage, but he comes with a little bit of personality baggage.
Which is but again, what are we, I feel you. It's but what are we making these decisions on, right? Like in a world where Hackett and others are getting hired, in a world where Josh McDaniel is getting rehired to be an NFL head coach, and Dennis Allen, how does the guy whose resume features 3 consecutive NFC championships, a Super Bowl in the mix, and a 44-19-1 overall record, again, despite all of that, how does that guy not get another shot? Dude, what the hell was Bo Schembechler doing back in Michigan back in the day? I don't know. That's way before my time. I have no great reference for Schembechler's personality. What I do know is I played for Les Miles for 5 years, and the amount of similarities I see between Harbaugh and him, and their quirkiness and their wording and their kind of just overall vibe is striking at times. And then I know that they both claim to be huge Bo Schembechler men. It's wild. And which maybe made even more wild, the Adam Schefter tweet from the other day, to show you what an outlier Harbaugh is and why you can feel good about him making that jump from college to the NFL again, is there's a lot of great head coaches that have tried to do that, and really he stands alone. I mean, Bill O'Brien was pretty good, won a couple divisions, 52-48 overall. Certainly GM O'Brien, as the old kind of tired take goes, it was GM O'Brien, not head coach O'Brien, that got him into trouble. Chip Kelly was a bit better than you probably remember at 26-21, but Urban Meyer was awful, 2-11. Matt Rule, 11-27. Kingsbury ends up awful. Doug Marrone awful. Schiano awful. Petrino awful. Nick Saban, 15-17. Spurrier, 12-20. Butch Davis, awful. And then you have Jim Harbaugh with a 70% win percentage.
There is one notable I don't know how you consider this. There's one notable name you left off here. I guess he doesn't count, but how do you count Pete Carroll in this?
No, okay, sorry. He would be successful. He should have been. Why isn't he on this list? It's since 2000.
I guess he goes from NFL to college.
This is
back
from Adam
to the NFL.
Schefter's tweet. I'm sorry, I should have said that.
No worries. I'm just I just feel like that when you think of people who are
oh yes, because he didn't make the jump originally from college.
Yes,
but I mean, but Pete Carroll, to your point, Pete Carroll works here because the bottom line is that Pete Carroll is a head coach that won big, whatever level he coached on. Jim Harbaugh has proven that. He won at San Diego State. He brought a Stanford team that was worst in the country to being relevant, set them up for their kind of golden era in a lot of ways. I'll never forget that 2017 beating USC with Richard Sherman catching the fade when that's when Stanford was maybe 0-12 or something the year before. He goes to the NFL. Like I said, a Niners franchise that for a decade, 8 years, had losing seasons, which is unfathomable when you think about San Francisco. He turns them around in the manner they did, and then he goes to Michigan, where they had been through. Was it Brady Hoke? That was one of them. I know you had Rich Rod, but wasn't Brady Hoke the head coach of Michigan at some time?
For a couple of years, yeah.
I mean, the man who would not wear a headset because it distracted him from his head coaching duties was the head coach of Michigan. I don't care how quirky Harbaugh is. He never did that. That is insane from Brady Hoke. And Brady Hoke just had a vibe that never really inspired confidence to begin with. But whatever. So to take that Michigan program that was dead, down and out, and to bring them back to immediate relevance. Now, they end up a couple rough years in the middle, but now back-to-back Big Tens, back-to-back Ohio State. Again, the guy can just win. He's weird as hell, but he can just win. And like some NFL team has to take a chance on him. I wonder, like, surely Irsay, like if anybody else, Jim Irsay, you put him in the Ring of Honor after he played for you for 4 years. You just hired ex-player Jeff Saturday to be your interim coach. Like, tell me in what world Jim Irsay does not hire Jim Harbaugh to be the coach. I can't see it. They have to. Here's my question, Brum. If, let's say, Michigan wants to keep Jim Harbaugh, do you think they can slap their own golden handcuffs on him? Like, do you think that is Jim Harbaugh a man that is motivated by money?
I think you have to. I think, like, if you've learned anything from the last 2 weeks, it's that Ohio State is, even though winning the last 2 games, they are not a program to be trifled with. You know, this is a team that had Georgia on the ropes, 42-41. I don't think, Matt Campbell is beating Ohio State 2 times in a year. I don't think, whoever you get to replace Jim Harbaugh can get that program to the level it's at right now. And in a world where Mel Tucker is making $80 million, James Franklin's making $90+ million, I think you just have to. I think you have to pay him. I think he is worth that Brian Kelly.
You're saying you at least have to offer him, right?
Yes.
Like you at least need to have it on the record that you offered him, so your fans can't be upset with you if you let him walk for an NFL job. And they're like, yeah, I mean, of course he walked. Like, of course he walked. Freaking Lane Kiffin, Jimbo Fisher, Mario Cristobal, Mel Tucker. Like, those are all names that are currently making more than Jim Harbaugh. That should not be the case. I'm with you, bro. He should be at 10 per, right there with Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley, right? But
yeah,
both guys
you can make an argument.
Won
He's
a ton.
Certainly one of the top 5 coaches in the sport, right?
Yeah. Those 3 right there are the ultimate, right at the edge of being elite. It's the national title eluding them that is holding them back, right? And it's like, I would even put them above Dabo now, but Dabo still has the championship rings to, that form the ultimate point of leverage in these conversations. But yeah, if Kelly and Riley are making 10, Michigan needs to give Harbaugh 10.
And like, whether you talk about being motivated by money, everyone's motivated by being paid what they think their peers should be paid. Does he?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
No one wants to make less than people who you deem to be worse at your job in anything.
True. Very true. And especially with coaches, like, right, a lot of time it's the same kind of competitive spirit and pettiness that drives them, like that same thing that drives them on the field. I think it makes those injustices, like you're referencing, when somebody's not as good as you and they're being paid more, it makes those injustices cut even deeper. Like, I'll never forget, after Nick Saban at LSU, after he won the national championship in 2003, he had a clause in his contract where he just made $1 million, $1 more than whoever the highest paid coach was, right? Might have been Bob Stoops at the time. But like, that's obviously not a guy motivated by money. That is a guy who just wants to say, no, I am on top.
That's how they define being the best. And these people wake up and work 100-hour weeks so they can define themselves as being the best. And whether that's being number 1 in the poll or being undefeated or making the most money, these are people who are judged by and are motivated by being at the top of the mountaintop. And this is part of being at the top of the mountaintop. Whether or not $8 million to $10 million, how much does that change your life in Ann Arbor, Michigan? Not really, but
yeah, and not when you're sitting on the millions that he's already accrued over time. There's a law of diminishing returns in that. But again, if Mario Cristobal's making more money than me and I'm Jim Harbaugh, I'm a little pissed. and Lane Kiffin and Mel Tucker, for that matter. Todd John says he had a big contract at 14 and didn't pay off till now. That's fair. But we're also talking about a sport where Neil Brown went 6-4 during the pandemic at WVU, a place that has no money, and was able to leverage that into a buyout that would have paid him $20 million and they decided to fire him, which they couldn't because they don't have that money. Like, we're talking about a sport that is the most extreme example of what have you done for me lately? And if it's even slightly good, because, these recruits got to know I'm going to be here, we're going to be able to really squeeze as much money as possible out of this. Todd Johnson also says the bar now at Michigan is a natty, and we can't win that. He has a chance in the NFL. Somebody else earlier as well saying, like, essentially that, Jim Harbaugh can't win the big one. He's limited. But, again, I think there's a ton of elements that go
24-2 in the last 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, so it's like, it's one of those deals where I understand what you're saying. As we pointed out the other day, he has had heartbreak, right? He's lost 2 NFC championships. He's lost a Super Bowl. He's lost 2 college football playoffs. That is brutal. But getting there that consistently, to me, outweighs any concerns I have about is he capable of winning a championship? I absolutely think you're capable. If you are capable of getting there that much, you're capable of one time getting across the finish line. I want to say, John Elway lost 4 Super Bowls before he won his first one?
3 Super Bowls.
And then he rattled off 2 in a row? Is it really only 3?
Yes.
I thought the Broncos had lost 4. Okay, so 3 Super Bowls Elway had to lose before he finally breaks through, and then he ends up winning 2, right? I'm sure that many people were saying the same thing about Elway. Couldn't win the big game, and he ends up proving him wrong. So that just doesn't hold a lot of water for me. Now, I do agree with Todd's comment, Brum, that, like, look, you look at Michigan's recruiting class. Now they got the NCAA, which, however feckless this is, it's still annoying to have to deal with. NCAA is talking about level 2 violations. They got Harbaugh on the hook for a level 1 violation for misleading the investigators. Like I said, this year's recruiting class not great. As you said, Ohio State more driven than ever to try to be elite. Like, there's a lot of elements here that say, okay, even if Michigan would pay me 10 per, I still want to get back to the NFL. Do you agree with that? Like, do you think that there's kind of a lot of other ingredients floating around the edge of this that are maybe going to force his hand?
The take question you're trying to ask is, does Jim Harbaugh have one foot out the door? Question mark.
Yes, essentially, or like should he? Like more of a should. Because, again, he's so odd that you never quite, and as he says, you never know what the future holds.
I would say no.
Like, should he? Because I think he should. I think he should go back to the NFL, 100%.
I disagree. I think he has a better chance of being remembered as Michigan's greatest all-time coach than winning a Super Bowl. I think
that's going to require natties, dude.
He's never going to. They can't run him out. His leash is another 6 to 8 years. They're going to win 70 to 80 games. He's going to have been there for 15 years. And you start once you start winning 100, 150 games places, you're talking about building a statue being built of you at your alma mater.
Potentially, but as Zone 6 points out, he would need 2 natties to pass Carr. And I don't care how good you are on a year-to-year basis, they're never going to give you GOAT status unless you can do that. But I guess what you're saying inherently there, Brum, is you think he is capable of hitting those 2 natties at Michigan.
If you're capable of beating Ohio State, you're capable of winning the national championship.
True.
I mean, if you could beat Ohio State, you can, in theory, beat Georgia, and you can string together those years. And if they play a more normal schedule, and who says they don't, they don't beat Georgia one of these years. Like, you come in, you've beaten everyone in the Big Ten 2 years in a row, and that level, and not in a fluky or lucky,
nothing fluky about it,
unsustainable way. You've done it with, let's call it, slightly above average college quarterback play at best. And would it be more fun if he went out and got someone who was going to be a top flight NFL quarterback? Yes, but they didn't.
Well, that's more in his philosophy, though. They
didn't just beat Ohio State 2 years in a row. They kicked their ass 2 years in a row. That. This is not. I mean, as much as, for example, we're both big LSU guys. LSU's 2 wins over Alabama in the last 4 years. We're about by what, a combined 6 points?
Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah,
I'm just saying you can make an argument that was it's not as sustainable as Michigan to Ohio State's ass twice in a row.
That is fair. I guess the only thing I get a bit afraid of is now Michigan still has elite talent. Don't get me wrong; they rank very highly. They pass the 50% mark that you need to pass to win an Natty on the blue chip ratio chart. But Ohio State's just up there with Alabama and Georgia as being like just on another level.
And there's no one in the Big Ten coming up behind them. The gap between Michigan and Ohio State and the rest of the Big Ten is never been greater.
Are you okay? My bad. You left one out, right? Like the same way Cowherd was like, okay, it's Georgia, Alabama, and LSU. It's Michigan, Ohio State, and
soon to be USC in 2 years.
Nebraska. Matt Rule and the Cornhuskers, Brum. Give it a little time, but here in 2 years, Nebraska is going to beat Michigan. You heard it here first. Look, I don't love. I don't say this because I want this. I say this because it is the truth. I just had a vision 30 seconds ago. Let's see. Todd Johnson, LSU's a bright future. Natty incoming. Todd, I like you. You're a smart guy. Okay. Actually, Penn State. Penn State's pretty close, bro. All jokes aside, and now you do have Wisconsin with Luke Fickell. You got Lincoln Riley and USC joining. Like, those waters are going to get a little more turbulent, but then again, 12-team playoff maybe gives you a better chance. So I don't know. This is all very roundabout. I think Harbaugh should probably go to the NFL. I think an NFL team would be foolish not to give him another chance. Like if you give him a shot and he fails, you at least have the out of how could I have known that he would fail when you look at the resume of everywhere that he's been. He's never it's never bad. I think we spent too much time on Harbaugh. This is my fault. Anything else to add, bro?
I agree. He should be the second choice at any NFL's team's big board behind Sean Payton, and I think he should stay at Michigan because I think that's a better pathway to glory for him than going back to the league.
Well, it is interesting. You look at the original Harbaugh press conference, and it's all about how money wasn't even a point, and it's all about being a Michigan man. It's a dream job, and maybe it's hopefully it's like a for-life job. And again, I think a team will offer him in the league, so we're going to figure out just how deep those that Michigan man ties run, how legitimate that is. Other news of the day. Something like that says Brian Kelly isn't the coach that Kirby Smart is. They are on different levels. I mean, look, now is not the time for anybody to try to take shots at Kirby Smart or say that anybody is as good as Kirby Smart. So I'm not even going to disagree with you there. I think one thing that's very interesting about this Georgia team, talking to guys around the program, talking to Aaron, talking to Jake Hester, who just covered him at the national championship the other day, is that he thinks one of the most incredible things that Kirby Smart has done at UGA is he has managed to get true superstar players to buy in to a blue-collar team attitude, right? Like, he has gotten superstar players to sacrifice individual self for the greater team. And that is so hard to accomplish. And sometimes championships can even change that. Like, I think at Alabama, you're seeing a bit of the greatest Alabama teams are the ones who do that, the ones that struggle a bit. And, it's a relative struggle if last year's a struggle for Bama. I think it's fair to say that Alabama's team last year was maybe a little bit more individualistic. And how this relates to Kelly and Saban is if you look at Brian Kelly's process, Kelly and Smart, I'm not saying that he's going to be able to accomplish this or that he will ever get on Smart's level because he has to prove it first. But in theory, like, the core principles behind Brian Kelly's culture that he is trying to create are the same, where it's built on a base of accountability to your teammate, right? Something greater than yourself. And that accountability is you seek to achieve it through the creation of positive daily habits. Again, all great theory and philosophy, and it paid good dividends in year one. And you would imagine that's a system that would pay increasing dividends year upon year. But it's still, like, the most perfect plan on paper can always go awry. So yeah, I'm not going to put Kelly on Smart's level yet. Kirby Smart is 47 years old and has 2 national championships and played for a third. That's some borderline greatest of all time type of stuff right there. But yeah, we'll see. Hashtag Ask Snaps. Outside of LSU, Bama, UGA, who in the SEC do you think will make the biggest noise? I think it's got to be Tennessee, right? I mean, I know it's weird to think about a Tennessee team, and this is something that I thought was very funny, Brum. Tennessee beat Tennessee beat Clemson in the bowl game with the backup quarterback. And what was your reaction when you saw that game, or if you didn't watch, when you saw the result? Like, what was your reaction to Tennessee winning that game?
I mean, I think it's a good sign that they can replicate their offense for next season. I think that it told me a little bit more about, especially not just their backup quarterback, but 2 backup wide receivers. Because as Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt had declared and opted out of the bowl game, Tennessee is always going to be at a bit of a structural disadvantage as you are stuck playing Georgia and Alabama year in and year out. That permanent opponent thing is always going to be tough for them. I have in the past criticized Josh Heupel's offense as a little gimmicky, but if you,
I think we all have.
Yeah, but I'm interested to see what Joe Milton does. I'm interested to see how they play next year, and they're going to be, if they win any less than 9 games next year, it's going to be very, very disappointing.
So here is and so here's where I'm going with this, is that when I saw Tennessee beat Clemson, and yes, as Bilbo points out in the chat, yeah, Clemson was using their backup quarterback, Klubnik, but still, again, go back to what you thought about Tennessee and Clemson before the season, okay? Fast forward to the bowl. Tennessee wins that game, and I think there's many of us out there, myself included, that were just kind of like, yeah, for sure. Like, Tennessee's better. It's wild that we got to a point that quickly with Tennessee. And it shows you just how good and how exciting they were for much of this year. Like, Brum, I remember early on in the season, we said, okay, who's the top 5 teams in the NCAA? And I'm kind of sitting there, I'm like, oh my God. And this was before they beat LSU. So I'm like, or maybe it was right after LSU, but it's kind of like, is it actually Tennessee? And it felt so absurd at the time, but now we've just accepted it, right? So I'm fascinated to see if the Volunteers really can be that 10-win team year in and year out. I think there's a ton of elements that point to the fact that they can, but also at the same time, like, let's not take for granted what they did this year, going 11-2, winning a New Year's Six Bowl against Clemson, one of the best programs of the last decade, and that's after 15 years of winning 33% of their SEC games.
If you took a program that had the most fun this year, like it was the most fun to be a fan of, if we did that power rankings, I think Tennessee would be second behind Georgia.
Yes, 100%. 100%, because the rise is always the most fun. And again, though, it is shocking how quickly we just accepted their greatness, which shows you that the pressure is going to be on Heupel and company to maintain that greatness. And for what it's worth, I think they will. But, well, you know, it's maybe a bit more up in the air than it feels like, which is also just credit to the Tennessee brand, because it feels like, yes, of course they're good. They should be good. They got all the money. They got the incredible stadium. They got the facilities. Like, the only thing they have to overcome is convincing people to go from Knoxville that aren't from the state of Tennessee. But I think in an age of NIL, that becomes significantly easier. Other college football news out there. We mentioned USC, right? I mean, this classic National College Football Talk. If SC's in the news, you talk about him. And Lincoln Riley out there saying that Alex Grinch is going to remain as defensive coordinator. And the reaction to this has been a bit mixed. I will say this. USC's defense was awful. But when I watched the film, Aaron, to me, and I'm tongue in cheek, it was more personnel related and not scheme related. Like, they were very small in that front seven. I'll never forget the first time I turned them on in the very beginning of the season when I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I really feel about USC? And the first series I watched, the defense was on the field. And I was like, oh my God, dude, this looks like a JV team out there. I mean, they got a 6'5", 200-pound middle linebacker. The D-line all look like they're like 260. Like, what is going on? And I fully expected that when they flipped to the offensive side, that USC offensive line would be just as sad and small looking. That was not the case. That O-line looked elite, and it's one of the reasons why, and they were huge. It's one of the reasons why they were so good offensively. So to me, there was a massive gap in the ingredients that Lincoln Riley was given to cook with the USC offense versus Alex Grinch was given to cook with the USC defense. So if I think the personnel wasn't great, except for the secondary, where it was really solid for the Trojans, but I think the personnel wasn't great overall, then I see a defense that forced 28 turnovers, which is 6th in the country. By far, they had the best turnover ratio per game. Only 3 teams in the country averaged averaged +1 in the turnover department per game, right? Illinois was at plus 1.08. Duke was at plus 1.23. USC was plus 1.5. So by far, the best team in the country of forcing turnovers and not giving the ball away. To me, that's a testament to pretty good scheme, being able to create those plays when you maybe don't have the best personnel. So I knew USC's recruiting well. I know they're going to do well in the transfer portal. And so I'm at the point, Brum, where like, I think absolutely Grinch deserves another year. And he deserves to have better players. And then if he can't get it done next year, where there's going to be a ton of pressure, Caleb Williams' final year, right? A Heisman Trophy winner returning to SC. In their school's history, that's what championships have been written upon. If Alex Grinch defense is awful again, and even like middling is not enough. They need to be good next year. But I understand because of the turnovers and the lack of personnel, I understand giving him that additional year before you make this move.
You don't hold any of the previous sins of the 3 years before at Oklahoma against him. You don't hold, like, is this like a whole new like situation of you being in a new place, or do you kind of lump him in with the Lincoln Riley issues of the 2019 through now teams, even though it's been at 2 places?
I mean, I guess I need to do a deeper dive on the sins at Oklahoma. I mean, like if I'm looking from Lincoln Riley's perspective, would I want more out of the defense? Yes, but like look at how much success they had at Oklahoma. Now, I know the defense held them back at time, but again, I think they weren't committing the same resources defensively. Even though, I don't know, man, Oklahoma always has really good defensive players, and they got guys that go to the league and kick ass, but for whatever reason, like, they just can't put together an elite statistical defense. Well, except for Stoops and then back at the turn of the new millennium. But, I don't know. I mean, okay, well, then you call out the sins. Like, to you, when you think about Alex Grinch at Oklahoma, what do you think? Because to me, I think okay. Like, I don't think he was an abject disaster. I think he took a disastrous Oklahoma defense, made it slightly better, and I think that from Lincoln Riley's perspective, they won a ton of games together.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, when you, like, it's just hard for me to see a thing that clearly kept them from being in the playoff. They struggled so mightily against Utah both times they lost. And, again, giving that game away to Tulane in the bowl game, it just seemed to be so clearly their one issue, the one Achilles heel keeping them from reaching the next step. And when people like Jim Leonard are out there and USC, you're coming in with essentially a blank check. You're going into the Big Ten, and you're going to have to start improving on that side of the ball. It felt like such an obvious chance for them to upgrade.
Okay, so now you've tickled my fancy. Now, but then again, we don't know what Jim Leonard's agent is putting out there, right? This is a man who was maybe up for like some NFL head coaching interviews back in the day. So does he want to go to SC? Does he want to stay in college? I guess only time will end up telling. But yes, if I'm the AD and I'm telling Lincoln Riley, hey, I can get you Jim Leonard, and Lincoln Riley tells me Alex Grinch, I'm gonna kind of suck my teeth a little bit, but I'm gonna be like, okay, look, but I trust you.
I know he's your guy, but
I know. So I'm gonna be like, okay, look, I'm gonna ride with you here, Lincoln, but you better be right? And if he's not right, then you probably force a move next year, and then who knows what that kind of does to the relationship. So, yes, if you can get Jim Leonard, I would have gone with Jim Leonard over Alex Grinch, sure. But we don't know how realistic necessarily that was. I do think this. I think that Lincoln Riley probably feels the same way that I feel. Here's a quote that he had that I thought was very interesting. Quote, whoever is coordinating at Georgia, I'm sure he's a great coach. But look at the guys last night, Riley said, referring to Georgia's dominant win over TCU in the national title game. Do they look like our guys? Not yet. Our guys don't look like that. We will soon. So he is very upfront about exactly what I was just talking about. What jumped off of the film for USC this year. Their personnel is just not impressive on that side of the ball, not in the front seven, at least. Also, some subtle disrespect to the defensive coordinator of Georgia. I feel like coaches normally know just like through the fraternity who is everywhere. But to be honest, when I read this, I realized I don't actually know who the DC at Georgia is right now. Who is it, bro? We looked it up before the show. Who is it now?
Will Muschamp and somebody else, correct?
I don't know. I thought you had looked up whoever his co-coordinating partner was. But yes, one of them is Will Muschamp, which I completely forgot about.
I bet the
and
chat
then you
will
tried
tell
to
us
say that
very
you would
shortly.
rather. You tried to say that you would rather Will Muschamp than Alex Grinch at USC, and I think that's the height of absurdity, dude. I think that is insanity. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if Alex Grinch had Georgia's personnel, I'm going to say USC's defense would have been pretty damn good.
I think that would help. I think that would certainly help.
Good.
I think having Jalen Carter going against Pac-12 offensive lines would be very fun.
Oh my God. that would be unfair on a week-to-week basis. Hey, Bart says it's hard to play good D when your offense is only on the field a few minutes, even if they score. Look, okay, so what he's getting at there is sometimes the offensive philosophy of these all-out offense teams can affect the defense, and I agree with that.
Is Lincoln Riley's offense too good?
Yeah, okay, yes, that's a great producer way of wording. That's exactly how you should for interesting conversation, right? But even viewed through that, like even grading on that curve, okay, even accounting for that, it's still not good enough. Like, look at the Tennessee defense. They're on a harder curve than anybody, and they still produced way better results than what, South Carolina game notwithstanding, than what you got at Alex Grinch and company. Muschamp and Glenn Schumann.
That sounds like a character on Mad
Men. I've never heard. I got to close the Schumann account here. Andy J, whose offense would you rather have, Lincoln or Heupel? I mean, they're both. I mean, I think Lincoln. I'm going to go potential play. I think Lincoln is more proven at the major college football level. So if I'm doing the safest bet, it's Lincoln Riley. But sometimes you got to be willing to get a little sexy, okay? And as we say all the time, it's not just chicks.
And you know how T-Bob defines sexy? Quarterbacks who now look like a former offensive lineman.
Hey, okay, hey, back off my guy, okay? Sorry. Whatever. Lincoln Riley's got a tiny mouth, okay? You can have Lincoln Riley. I'll take the comfort. You know, who would you rather snuggle with on a couch at night after a long day? Lincoln Riley or Josh Heupel?
Josh Heupel.
Thank you. Exactly. Okay. I'm at the age of my life, Brum. I'm not about Instagram. I'm not about the thoughties. I'm not out here trying to have one night stands or anything like that. Okay. I want comfort. I want stability. I want someone who, we can go both eat till we're like, we are not doing anything when we get home. We're just going to go straight to sleep, or we're going to cuddle up on the couch and watch like the latest episode of Rings of Power. I could do that with Josh Heupel. I can't do that with Lincoln Riley. As far as offenses go, also, though, people dig the long ball. Okay, it's sexy, it's hot, it's fun. If Heupel, I would take Heupel. Now we just got to see if he can sustain it, though. All right, last on the list here. Brum, what's going on with Coach Prime? Coach, it's the headline here is, hey, everyone, you don't have to interview Deion Sanders. But, okay, you lay out your case
I'm
first.
just very... It is going to be, we are in day 2 of the off season. It's going to be a lot. We're going to be reading a lot of Deion Sanders interviews, puff pieces, media appearances. There was this week alone. He was interviewed by GQ. He was on Pat McAfee for half an hour. I would just say let's get used to Deion Sanders, and I would say some media discipline would be helpful from Deion. Do you know what their over-under is by any chance going into this year?
Colorado?
Yes.
I do not. Have you looked it up? Like, are you setting me up, or is this just a random,
It is the one that FanDuel has listed, and it is currently 4.5.
Oh, bro. I mean, the prime hype is so real that I'm signing into FanDuel right now to hit the over. Right? I mean, is that wrong of me?
It's just going to be fascinating. Like, they tried to get a week 0 game to give themselves national exposure. I mean, look, I have to say, Deion is so good at this. And whether or not anyone likes it, like, I mean, he tried to schedule a game with Arizona State. That got nixed by the NCAA. They're going to play TCU week 1. I guarantee you that is a very coveted prime time or big noon slot early in the offseason. He is doing a great job of creating hype around the program. But I just want to let everyone know to settle in, because if you're going to get Deion fatigue now, it's going to be a long offseason. Got another 34 weeks
maybe,
of this.
You know, look, maybe week like 27, right? When he's worked through all the big boys, come on down to snaps. Let's go, Coach Prime.
Love it. You got to fill July somehow.
Yeah, look at that. FanDuel, the only win total over under right now and it's plus 106 right now if you bet the over. Let's ride, dude. I'm throwing there we go. That easy. FanDuel Sportsbook app, promo code SNAPS if you're signing up for the first time. Nothing like a little futures bet that won't hit until like a year and a half from now.
You got to sign up to FanDuel, to again hit that bet. You could bet the 2023 Heisman already. So,
Hebert says, "Did Colorado get some good corners?" I have no idea. I don't know. I literally have. That's interesting. What were Caleb Williams' odds before the season began?
I'm sure he was one of the top 3 or 4. I mean, he had a giant year at Oklahoma, going with Lincoln Riley, who has had 2 Heisman winners. I'm sure he had to be in the top 5 of candidates. It would probably have been him. DJU would have been a big one. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young would probably been the top 4 or so candidates going into the year.
How do we feel about this, bro? I'm a little, I love a good way too early top 25. Florida State checking in at number 4. LSU checking in at number 8. Let's go. Top 10 in Atlanta.
I mean, if you're looking at the top 10 next year, it's going to be some combination of Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan. And I think you have to put LSU and Florida State in some order after that.
This has
Tennessee, Clemson.
This is toy ball.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
No, you go. Okay, I'll go. It's Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, then Florida State, which that feels a bit takey. Then Alabama, then Penn State, USC, LSU, Oregon, Tennessee.
I think Penn State, that's one I forgot. They were sneaky under the radar all year. All the advanced stats loved Penn State. They were probably the 6th to 9th best team in the country based on what sort of stats you looked at.
They're weird.
It's weird because, since we only focus on 4, you get no points for being, the 7th best team, since they were kind of out of the playoff race for the whole year.
Well, not when you're Penn State, right? Not when you're Penn State and you're supposed to be there with Ohio State and Michigan. Sure.
Correct, but they're going – I think they have most of their team coming back, and so they're going to have a lot of hype going into next season.
Yeah, I guess what's different, what's interesting about Penn State is, Zone 6 of the chat says Penn State only played Ohio State and Michigan and lost. That is true, but outside that Purdue game, I think they smashed everybody else, right? But they weren't truly that competitive against Ohio State or Michigan. So it appears like they're in this weird limbo of being way better than everybody else in the Big Ten.
But unable to compete for titles.
Yeah, but not that close to the only people that it matters if they're as good at the Big Ten. That's not a very fun place to be as a fan. We'll see though. You know who my way too early dark horse team that I would love to be good again next year is? The Huskies. Let's go, dude. I mean, getting Penix Jr. back, Kalen DeBoer, the multi-time national champion from the University of Sioux Falls. Is it Sioux? I don't know. But 11-2, 17. They're going to return 7 offensive starters and 7 defensive starters. I can't wait to see what Washington can do in the Big 12, or excuse me, the Pac-12 next year.
For sure. I think that's all we got.
Yeah. Is that your way of telling me to wrap up as
Yes,
I'm just rambling here at the end of the
Sure
podcast?
is.
Yeah, great call. It's a good call, bro. My bad. I just saw the time.
No worries.
Hey, look, love y'all hanging out here. Blake Walters, FSU starts with LSU, right? They're just trying to make that a top 10 game to start. Yeah, look. Now I think you can easily craft the argument why both those teams should be top 10, given the 10 wins and everything. But I definitely don't
Both
think
teams
it hurts
were very
to play
good.
week one.
We're arguably top 10 to 12 teams this year. They're returning everyone, including their very successful, long-tenured, multi-year starting quarterbacks.
Exactly. And I don't think it hurts, though, that is a sexy week one matchup, right? And that's good for all of college football when you kind of juice those up. And even it's on like a subconscious level, I think voters will look at that. Shout out Tulane. Finish in the top 10 this year. All right. Hey, that'll do it for today's Snap. Thanks for hanging out here. No Aaron Murray, but he'll be back on tomorrow's episode of Snaps. Huge thank you to Ryan Bromley. I mean, the man does it all. He gives you takes. He gives us takes off air. And to use on air, he produces the show. He's fantastic. So are Paul Farrington, Pat Gunner, Danny Cardenas. Aaron Murray's not bad himself. Although tomorrow we do have to rip on Aaron Murray for his top 5 Georgia quarterback list of all time. I get
humility.
that he made the list.
Don't do it.
Well, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt here, Brum, because it's not false in that Aaron is not the type of personality like he's going to automatically ding himself more, right? Like I don't think you can make a top 5 list when you are in the top 5. There's no way to win that. Because you either underrate yourself and then people are like, he's being false humble, or you overrate yourself and you're like, oh my God, this guy just freaking loves himself.
But he also has an obvious out where he's obviously not number 1. So
yeah, sure.
There is no debate. He can't he doesn't have to do he's not in a tough position where he has to debate, am I number 1 or not? I think it's easier. It's easier to slot yourself in at number 2 than it is to slot yourself in at number 1. If you're making your own list where you're on it.
He had Stetson, Stafford, and then himself, which is the Stafford one's interesting because he was actually a more successful quarterback on the college level than was Stafford. But look what Stafford did in the NFL. And I think in Aaron's mind, he's like, well, how can I put myself above him? Well, you know what? When Aaron gets back tomorrow, we'll let the dogs decide, all the Georgia fans in the chat. Todd Kidd says Josh Heupel looks like Bobby Hill. Yeah, or like Big Hasbullah. Would shout out Big Orange Mac, Twitter account I follow. That's a Tennessee fan. He pointed out he looks like Big Hasbullah, and it's very funny. We love you. Sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook app, promo code SNAPS. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the Volume Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening on podcast, saw a few more reviews roll in on Apple, baby. Let's go. Whether you listen to Apple, Spotify, wherever, please, if you want to help the show, rate it, review it. We love you all so very much. And we will see you tomorrow for a brand new episode of Snaps.